All right, it's a Dolphins Today mailbag, one of my favorite segments of the week because it's an Ask Anything kind of mailbag. We open it up, no questions are off limits, come one, come all, and let's have some fun asking Dolphins-related questions or any question for that matter. And what a way to start out on this Mailbag Wednesday from one of our favorites, Sherry May. Predict the score for our game against the Broncos. So, first home game for Miami. I think that's important to note. It'll be a ruckus crowd there at Hard Rock Stadium. A whiteout as well, which we'll have more on. And for the Broncos, they've gotten off to a really rough start. 0-2, the Sean Payton era with Russell Wilson just hasn't gone the way anyone in the Mile High City could have hoped or envisioned it going. There's been rumors of turmoil amongst Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. And the Dolphins, heavy favorites. I was actually surprised. The first line I saw was 6.5. I thought the Dolphins would be maybe even double-digit favorites because that's kind of how I see it going in my mind. But, I mean, I'm going to, again, not be too overconfident, play it a little bit safe with my prediction, but I think the Dolphins offense continues to have its way against the opposition. It's the top-ranked offense for a reason. Tua is the top-ranked quarterback for a reason. He's the favorite to win the MVP right now, and that Dolphins offensive train is just going to keep rolling, baby. So I like the Dolphins to put up 31 points, and defensively, I think they have what it takes to really stifle a, at times, good Denver Broncos offense. So I'll go 31-17. Dolphins move to 3-0, baby. Chad Jones, my guy, your guy, our guy, everybody's guy. Chad Jones uses the hashtag Dolphins. I think Mostert and Ahmed is a great 1-2 punch. AVG has stepped his game up as well as the O-line. Completely agree with that. So, not sure what the question is there, but I'll go with it. I think the Dolphins offensive line also has really been a point of pride for Miami, especially when you consider, I don't want to say low expectations, but there were question marks on the offensive line because there were injuries, and this was the weakest unit of the team a year ago, but they have kept Tua clean, dry, and upright, and have some of the more efficient ratings as far as Pro Football Focus is concerned on the offensive line. And the run game has been really good as well. So both getting it done, pass blocking and run blocking. Love this Dolphins offensive line in a 2-game sample size. So that's always important to note too. It's only been 2 games. Last year the Dolphins started 2-0, and they're eyeing a 3-0 start, which they had last year. So it would be back-to-back 3-0 starts for the first time since 1946. That was before I was born. Barely. But you get the point. This Dolphins team has proven they can be special on the offensive side. So I love that. I love the Dolphins offense, especially on Sunday against a arguably mediocre Denver Broncos defense. All right, this one's from SYG Clan. Hashtag Dolphins. What is going on with Waddle? Is he okay? What happened? Great question. So I'm going to answer the back half of the question, then flip it around to the front. So Sunday Night Football, Waddle took a helmet-to-helmet shot from a Patriots defender. I'm blanking on who actually delivered the hit. He was being covered by Matthew Judon because he was playing that outside linebacker position, and Judon played it perfectly, but Mapu came in late and delivered the helmet-to-helmet against Jaylen Waddle, and he was showing concussion-like symptoms, and it was late enough in the game where he felt like, all right, let's play it safe. He entered concussion protocol. Mike McDaniel had an update on Jaylen Waddle earlier today, and that update was simply he's progressing through concussion protocol. But after the game, going back to Sunday, he was joking around with Tyreek Hill and some of the other teammates. So I don't want to get ahead of myself and put the cart in front of the horse. However, I think Jaylen Waddle is going to be in good shape. Don't know if he plays Sunday or not, but he's working through that concussion protocol process after suffering a potential concussion due to the helmet-to-helmet hit on Sunday Night Football. Hashtag Dolphins. is Mike McDaniel the best offensive coach in the NFL? He's certainly the most entertaining, right? Him running the cameras on Sunday Night Football. If you watch any of his media availability, he's always cracking jokes. He's got that sense of humor that's a little bit dry, but I love it. I think it's freaking hilarious. Now, as far as the execution on the field, in 2023, 2-game sample size, you could certainly make the case for the Dolphins head coach being the brightest offensive mind in the game. I think you got to give a little love to Kyle Shanahan and what he's been able to build in San Francisco. Obviously, Bill Belichick being the GOAT right now as far as head coaches are concerned, more defensive-minded than anything else. And I know that question was about specifically Mike McDaniel's offensive prowess. And I think you really could make the case that he is arguably one of, if not the brightest minds in football. And I got to give Andy Reid his flowers. I mean, defending Super Bowl champs. The list does go on. There's a lot of brilliant coaches in the National Football League. But I tell you what, I'm happy Mike McDaniel's leading the Dolphins. We'll put it that way. All right. How about we just flip the question around? Rank Mike McDaniel among all NFL coaches. What do you think? Voice your opinion in the comment section. It's our pinned comment today. So let me know, where do you rank Mike McDaniel among all NFL coaches, 1 through 32? Next question, #Dolphins. Trade for Cam Akers. This is a good one, and I know Bleacher Report and other different media outlets out there have certainly been throwing those rumors around, not with the Dolphins specifically, but just the fact that he is on the trading block. And I think anytime you're a contender and have the expectations that the Dolphins do, it's okay to, entertain ideas, to bring in pieces. We certainly did with Jonathan Taylor. We were linked to a couple other big names as it relates to just shoring up that offense and being as potent as possible. So sure, let's add in Akers there. But I said it with Jonathan Taylor. I'll say it with Cam Akers. I like what the Dolphins have right now. And Raheem Mostert, Salvon Ahmed, if they haven't shown you what they're capable of in 2 games, then you're not watching, because Raheem Mostert leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns, and Salvon Ahmed is the top-graded running back for the Miami Dolphins, according to Pro Football Focus. So that being said, I like the running back room where it is, and I'm all right with pushing pass on that one. So I don't think that the Dolphins necessarily need to make that trade. Another one coming in, #Dolphins. Do you think Vic Fangio is going to turn it up against his former team, and not to mention Bradley Chubb? That's a great point, because Chubb was arguably one of the best players on the defensive side for the Dolphins on Sunday Night Football. Graded out really well. He forced that fumble. He had another sack. And I do think players might say, oh, it's just another game. But I do think internally, if you're that high level of a competitor, you've made it to the National Football League, there's something about playing that former team. And the same could be said with Vic Fangio. There's something about coaching against the team, against the franchise, that it didn't work out in for you. So I think it's a yes. And maybe it's I'm just going off of a whim or a hunch there, but I absolutely think Vic Fangio is going to crank it up a little bit. Same with Bradley Chubb. And Bradley Chubb's been playing really well. He played well against the Chargers in Week 1 as well, had the sack and the forced fumble in Week 2 against the Patriots. So Vic Fangio's got that defense coming together. Drastic, and I'm talking drastic improvements from Week 1 to Week 2. So let's continue with that climb and improve in Week 3 as well. Remind you to stay locked into Dolphins Today simply by subscribing. That's all you have to do. It takes 1 second, probably less than that. We were in meetings earlier today talking, Reeps, could you get some more subscribers to Dolphins Today? I said, absolutely. Absolutely I can. And why should you subscribe? Well, it's real simple. We have a lot of fun. We talk about the Dolphins. We have watch parties. We have giveaways. Pretty much anything that would entice you if you're a Dolphins fan can be found here on Dolphins Today. That's why you subscribe. Also because it takes 2 seconds. And the more you subscribe, the more Dolphins content we have. It's as simple as that. It's crazy, the metrics that are provided from YouTube about subscriptions, about content, that sort of thing. And the more you subscribe, the more Dolphins content we're bringing to you. It's as simple as that. Let's get back to some more questions. Trade Burns for Phillips. I don't think so, Marcus Noah. That one, I think Phillips is one. I said it earlier. We just got to pump the brakes a little bit because he's a guy that the back injury, you don't want it to linger. However, you know what type of productive player he can be on the defensive side, and I just would hate to rush into some kind of move without knowing the extent of what's going on with him health-wise. And so for that reason, I pump the brakes. And I don't know if other NFL teams would necessarily want to indulge in that type of transaction with a guy like Phillips. All right, we need to start DeVon Achane. He is a beast. All right, I love that point that you bring up, and it's worth diving into because I think we saw a lot from Achane in the preseason of that potential, of that big play potential that he has because of the speed. He can change a game the second he has the ball. And so it certainly is kind of enticing to think, hey, let's get the rock in DeVon Achane's hands and see what happens. So for that, I don't disagree. But also look at the Dolphins' productivity numbers through 2 weeks of play. They're the best offense in the National Football League. They're third in scoring offense. And on Sunday against the New England Patriots, it was the running game that really, in my opinion, propelled them to victory. So, yes, I think mixing in Achane in key spots might be a part, but I don't think it's necessarily one of those things where you take away what Mostert's doing, you take away what Ahmed's doing, just so that you can get Achane more touches. Dale Dennis, hashtag Dolphins. Tua is proving all the haters wrong. Do you think he gets a big contract extension this offseason? I don't think there's any huge rush to get into that. But at the same time, if it does get done, I wouldn't be surprised. That's kind of the way the NFL has gone, just in terms of locking up your quarterback sooner rather than later. We saw that with Joe Burrow. And at the end of the day, Tua's going to get his bag. He's going to be the quarterback of this franchise for the foreseeable future. I don't think there's any doubt in that. And so I always think the people making those decisions certainly have more of a specific agenda than what we as fans know. And there's an element of trust that goes into it, just in terms of where the Dolphins are right now, how the season is progressing. I don't think it's of the utmost priority, but that's not to say I don't think it gets done sooner rather than later. And I think Tua deserves a big contract, fat bag, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. All right, you be the GM. Should the Dolphins give Tua an extension? Type Y for yes, N for no. I know you guys know the scene. Let me know in the comments. Y for yes, N for no. Should the Dolphins give Tua Tagovailoa an extension? All right. In the comments, we're talking about Tua, his extension, but we also have more questions to get into. Is the Sunday night game pitting the Dolphins versus Eagles a battle of 6-0 unbeaten? That's a good one. It's coming up on October 22nd, I believe. Let me just check my fancy calendar down here. Yes, October 22nd, Eagles versus Dolphins. Very well could be a 6-0 game, a matchup of unbeatens, because I think when you look at the Dolphins' schedule, it's favorable, and the same could be said with the Eagles, but I also think there's something worth pointing out just in the fact that these are two perennial contenders, so you expect them to win every game and perhaps even be favored in every game. So if I was a betting man, a lot has to go right for those teams to both be 6-0 at the time of that game, but I certainly would not be surprised if it's a battle of 6-0 teams. Dolphins, do you think Dalvin Cook is now regretting not signing with Miami because of the Aaron Rodgers injury? That's a great question. I actually was thinking about this the other day, just if Dalvin Cook, because he had 2 carries on Sunday against the Cowboys, and I thought, why is he in a position where he's not being utilized? And I'm not saying he would be utilized more in Miami, but it is of note, and in my opinion, somewhat interesting that, yes, he just signed with the Jets. You lost Aaron Rodgers, and you're still not really using him. So it's hindsight's always 20/20. I can't get inside the mind of Dalvin Cook of what he's thinking, but I got to believe there's some element of regret or maybe even just pondering how things could be different had Aaron Rodgers not been injured, had he gone somewhere else. And when you make a decision of that magnitude, it's human nature to look back on what could have been, especially when things don't go right. But hey, he doesn't play for Miami, so I'm not really spending too much time trying to, dissect what he's got going on between the ears. And I love our running back room. I know I've said it once, I've said it 5 times, I've said it 20 times in this video alone. I love Raheem Mostert, I love Salvon Ahmed, and oh, by the way, you can mix it up with the rookie DeVon Achane as well. Last question. To upgrade our kicker position, I think it means we need to upgrade our kicker, special team coordinator, and center. Yeah, those are some upgrades that could need to take place in the near future. I talked earlier this week about the potential of moving on from Jason Sanders, and there's some free agent kickers out there. Robbie Gould comes to mind from San Francisco, albeit he's a little bit older. He's been around the block a time or two, but hey, you're a kicker. And I know kickers are people too. However, I think you can step in and kick at any time, and Robbie Gould is certainly a name to be on the lookout for as far as someone that the Dolphins could potentially pursue. So, want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Mailbag segment. Always a good time when we can get your questions answered because it's a lot of fun. Love talking Dolphins football with you. The Miami Dolphins taking on the Denver Broncos on Sunday. I'm always tweeting about the Dolphins, so you can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Rietma. We'll have another Mailbag next week on Dolphins Today.